So I had a dream that we went to a Spurs Bulls game, and because it was against the Bulls, like no one was there, and so we were able to like sneak down and get courtside seats right behind the Spurs bench, and we
I,
just like sat there like whispering in Jimmer Fredette's ear and
I
like,
knew it. I knew I
hey,
was gonna go there.
it's like, hey, how's it feel to be playing against your old team, huh? Huh? How's this gonna go? You spill all the secrets, huh? You're gonna so.
Hey,
We,
like being on a winning team now, Jimmer.
I talked some smack about BYU with him. Yeah, it was great. So it was just random. Like I never have like what a random thing to be dreaming about for me. It's like, hey, we're gonna go see Jimmer at a Spurs game. So
Hey.
yeah,
Oh, you surprised me this week about how much you knew about basketball. I was like, whoa.
I
Check out the basketball brains on Andy.
I do know some basketball. Here's the thing. It's not that I don't like like sports. It's that I don't have time for them, and I like I said, like when I get into it, it's like looking at like applied statistics, and like that's the part of it that I enjoy. But I used to actually be really active, like knowing about sports, because like when I worked in politics professionally, it's like when you go and talk to people at like cocktail parties and whatever, you can't talk about politics.
Right.
So the easiest thing to talk about is sports. Because like if you're talking about politics, it's like you're talking about work. So if you, but like so I had to like be up on everything that was going on, especially living in New York. It was like I had to know what was going on with all the teams. It was just like that was like a form of currency almost. So, but yeah, like I said, when we had cable, we had BYU TV, and they broadcast all the games. And one of my friends was like, "You've got to check this out. Like this guy's amazing." And so I started watching it, and I'm like, "This guy is like hilarious to watch because he just like he makes it look so easy to just like put up 30 points in a game." And I don't know what this guy's doing, but he's amazing. So that was like, yeah, I'm occasionally good at sporting, um, but like I still have no idea who night. That's like a really easy thing that like if you stop paying attention to it and you don't know anything about it anymore, it like is useless knowledge. It's like I know far more about like basketball from the '90s than I do about basketball right now.
Yeah, my uncles pull up really fantastic sports trivia when they're drunk, which is impressive, kind of, because I can't remember anything when I'm drunk. Well, my uncles can pull out stuff that the Cowboys did in '82, and like Jesus, I don't know how they do this.
Yeah,
Can't hold a job, but they know Cowboys trivia.
there you go. But see, it's just another brand of nerddom. It's like you got sports trivia, you got Marvel Comics trivia, and my brain is filled with more of the latter than the former. Especially now that like uh, knowing Marvel Comics trivia is almost more useful.
And
I'm
now it is, yeah.
I'm the guy in the office when a new movie comes out who has to explain like who was that guy in the scene after the movie? Like why was everybody freaking out? And I'm like, oh well, that's Thanos, and here's why that's cool. And
Right.
but let's just get into this episode. It is episode 22 of Who Virgin. We are hungover from our episode last week. We got a little bit too tipsy there, and it took forever to get the episode out. So we apologize for that. Apologize. We may also have a delay coming up for the 23rd episode. Not sure when we're going to get around to that. Just having a crazy week with work and some other stuff, but we'll get to it as soon as possible. We promise. Because we'll talk about uh, Torchwood. What, Children of Earth? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, that we'll talk about that next episode. But this episode, um, we're gonna say goodbye to David Tennant and do these four specials that got broadcast in between seasons 4 and 5. The Next Doctor, Planet of the Dead, Waters of Mars, and The End of Time. Let's just jump right into it. The Next Doctor. Uh, I was pleasantly surprised by this because it actually I actually thought for the first half of the episode, I'm like, oh, this guy is a future incarnation of the Doctor, and we just haven't gotten there yet. And then I started thinking, I'm like, but wait a minute, no, he can't be, because I know that David Morrissey wasn't in like the 50th anniversary special or any of this other stuff, and like he's still around, he's still available, it so something else is going on. And as soon as the Doctor uh, checked his heartbeat, and I'm like, oh, he knows what's up, and
Right. Right.
he knows that he's not. So that was really cool. I also spent the first like 10-15 minutes of the episode. I'm like, oh, where do I recognize that?
Oh, no way. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I felt really dumb, and then I'm like, oh, that's the freaking governor. Duh.
You bastard.
And it's like, well, he doesn't have a southern accent, and he's in a dapper suit and stuff. And it's like, I know that face, and why am I blanking on this? So, but I really enjoyed that. I felt it turned some of the Doctor's conventions on its head, and um, the Cybermen weren't overused in this, and at the end there was a big giant robot destroying London in uh, Victorian times, which was super cool. So I
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah. When this show came out, when this episode came out, it was like really confusing because we had no idea who the next Doctor was going to be after Tennant. Everybody already knew that this was Tennant's last go around. So when this guy showed up, it was real confusing because what you're seeing tells you he's the next Doctor, but a lot of the little things that are happening kind of they tell you that he's not because he has a Victorian accent and he speaks in a Victorian way, so that it can't be the Doctor because the Doctor doesn't do that. He may pick up an off accent, but he doesn't speak in the relative terms of that period. So it kind of throws you off. So I remember being a little confused, and I was thinking, I'm not even sure I like this dude as the next Doctor. But then when he says, when he shows his sonic screwdriver, and it's not a sonic screwdriver, then I'm like, oh, okay, something funny's happening here. And then it starts to unravel as the episode goes on. Overall, because I had hated the rest of the Christmas specials so far to this point, I didn't hate them, I just didn't like them. This one was at least different, and I appreciated that.
Yeah,
The whole Cybermen thing was kind of hokey, but there is some really fun stuff like the TARDIS. He names the hot air balloon TARDIS, but he calls it the acronym for TARDIS he uses it completely different. Do you remember what it was?
I
Like,
remember the last three because I laughed so hard was done in style.
yeah,
I
tethered
don't remember the first three.
tethered air transport or tethered air something done in style.
Yeah, the done in style part did me in. Like,
Yeah,
Doctor Who's not a show. I mean, there's a lot of lightness. You know, they usually do a good job putting some levity, somewhere in an episode, but it's never like laugh out loud. Really, it's just kind of amusing more than anything. But that I distinctly remember the done in style part just
yeah,
cracked me up. I mean, really.
that was cool. And then
Yeah.
we get Rosita. So that was cool. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. I was thoroughly confused at first. I remember like thinking, what the hell's going on? And is this dude really going to be the next Doctor? Like, he seems kind of corny. And I loved the way Russell Davies kind of pulled the rug underneath us with this episode. It was all right. It was good. It wasn't great, but I kind of liked the way the Doctor was moving on from the incidents of having to destroy Donna's memory and whatnot.
yeah. I I mean, geez, compared to every other Christmas episode, this was like a breath of fresh air beyond all of those. So I was expecting it to be another corny something, and this was actually fun. I liked it. So anything else?
No.
Let's move on. Planet of the Dead. Um,
I hated this.
really?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Okay,
Which
tell
one
us
is
what you,
this? You'll have to remind
The
me.
the flying bus. You remember the flying bus?
Oh, the double decker.
hmm
Yes.
The double decker gets stranded on the desert planet with three
It
suns,
goes
and
through the tunnel, and it turns out that that's like
it's a
a
wormhole.
yeah.
It's a wormhole, yeah.
Okay, I remember that. I liked. I kind of liked the character, the female. I don't remember her name.
Lady Christina de Souza.
Yes. She
Yeah,
was awesome.
I liked her, but the story was just okay. Like it
It
could
was
have been a
dumb.
lot better. I feel like that was such a badass performance from the guest star. I guess she was kind of like an interim uh, companion, sorta, you know. Um, and as far as one-off companions go, I mean, pretty outstanding. Uh, but they wasted her performance kind of because it just I don't know. They could have done so much better, I think.
Yeah, I liked her too. I thought she was cool. In terms of one-off companion, she's way better than Kylie Minogue
Yeah,
in
I
that in that type
remember
in
her
that type.
name, but yeah.
Yeah, but I thought the story was kind of dumb. It was like the pitch black monsters, but in a desert, and they swim around a planet and create a wormhole. It was so weak. The one thing I did like about this episode, aside from that temporary companion, was that one scientist guy who gets all excited because he's finally talking to the doctor, the guy
Oh
who works with
yeah,
you.
he was funny. He was
He was cool. Yeah, he added just the right amount of funny. But everything else, and when they created the levitating bus thing, I just thought it was so stupid.
but at least it gave her a chance to get away because I did not
Right.
want her to go to jail.
Yeah.
I know she stole stuff, but you know, at
Yeah,
least
but
she get to keep it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad she got away, and I was actually kind of angry at the doctor for letting them arrest her. You know what I mean? At first, I was like, what the hell, Because she would have been badass
she would have been.
if she could have stayed with him a little longer. But
Exactly.
yeah, she was like the takeaway from the episode. Other than that, it was just kind of like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The rest of the episode was just kind of there, but I liked her so much that I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." Although they kept making references to her being a member of the aristocracy, and she was like, "Yeah, this is why the aristocracy still rules." And I'm like, "Shut up! You're making me feel more like a Marxist." And I'm like, "I don't care if you're a lady or a lord or whatever." I did like that her loot that she got the golden chalice, and she's like, "Be careful with this," to the doctor, and he just starts banging on it with a
Very
hammer to like make it work so the bus will fly. That
Yeah.
was great. I loved her. I agree. The episode overall was more weak, but I thought that she made up for it.
Well, to put it in context, that whole year we didn't really get that much Doctor Who, so we were heavily dependent on the specials. So and they would advertise them, so they would create all this hype. So when this episode finally aired, it was like it felt so flat, and I felt like we waited all this time for this crap.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine if the next set of Sherlock episodes just fall flat. Like, you'll be pissed because you waited this long. You
Totally.
waited by this point it's almost 2 years now. So that's the way I felt with this episode when it finally aired, and Planet of the Dead. It sounds like it's gonna be great, and it's so freaking lame. I mean, flying stingrays. Come on, man.
No, that's true. That's true. It could have been cooler, and I agree that like can anyone explain to me like what happened, why they decided that we're not going to do a series anymore? It's just going to be like a Christmas special, and then another special 4 months later, and then another special 4 months later, and then another Christmas special.
This was all happening during the turnaround from Moffat letting go of the series, Moffat taking over and Davies letting go.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a whole bunch of turnover, and there was an issue with the BBC. I think they were fighting over budget, and there was a lot of rumors that they were going to put Doctor Who on hold for a few years. So, just to keep people happy and put stuff out there, they decided to do specials for about a year and a half. And yeah, that was kind of lame, man. I remember to a certain point, I almost lost interest because there was way too much time between episodes. And
Yeah.
I mean, this one episode didn't help matters at all.
Yeah, I can agree. Like if they were doing this with something like Agents of Shield or Agent Carter or Supernatural or a show like that, yeah, and this was all I got for 4 months, yeah, I agree. I feel
Andy?
We lost Andy.
Uh-oh. Wait,
Wait, he got him with his mouth open.
I
I feel like throwing some popcorn in his mouth.
Looks like he's playing karaoke. He just got stuck.
I'm stuck on a feeling. Oh, Andy. Hey, did you see Trainwreck?
No, I haven't seen it. I've
Oh,
heard
no way.
it's really good. Yeah.
I would have thought you had seen it.
No.
It's pretty good. I really liked it.
I've not seen any movies and I have tickets to see 2 movies this week, sneak previews, and I didn't go to either one because I've just been busy with work.
Which movies?
Pixels, which I didn't see, of course,
Right.
and Vacation.
Oh, I'm not interested in that.
I wouldn't mind seeing it, but do I want to wait 2 hours out in the sun?
Right.
It's like at the Palladium lately, they don't let you in until the person who takes the tickets, gets
Right.
it, the representative from the studio, and they don't get there till like a half hour before it starts. So if you want a spot, you're just like out there for 3 hours in the sun roasting. I have to really want to see a movie.
Yeah, screw that. And he's back.
sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. This is the second week in a row where it's like the computer went to sleep. No, it didn't. I'm right here. What do you want?
Dude, it was hilarious because your picture stayed on with your mouth open. We were trying to throw stuff in your mouth.
That's awesome. Again, like when I got to edit that out of last week's episode, that was like hilarious. Like the things that everyone was saying. So, okay, where did I cut out so I know where I can kind of pick up? And
What were we talking about?
did I start talking about the waters of Mars yet?
No.
Oh, no. We're talking about having to wait so long between episodes. You know what point I was going to bring up? Okay, so Avatar was great. When I went to go see it, it blew my mind. It was so awesome. I thought Sam Worthington was going to own the world. But now it's been like, 20 years? And James Cameron is still working on his movies. So when they finally come back, it better blow my socks off, man. Because if it doesn't, what a waste of time. And that's the way I felt with this episode. I kept waiting for more Doctor Who, and this Planet of the Dead showed up, and I'm like, oh, crap. This is the kind of crap we're going to be getting. We're going to have to wait 3-4 months between episodes and get this kind of crap. It was real disappointing. But
Literal crap, because the sand made out of...
yeah.
So,
That's right. And it was all over
my hair.
Yeah.
I totally get that, and yeah, I would have been. I think I probably in that context I would have been disappointed since it was just the next show in the Netflix queue. It was like, okay, well, we're gonna move on, and move on. I did to Waters of Mars, which if I'd been waiting another 4 months for this, I would have been equally as pissed. Because I did not like this episode. I mean, not at all. There were some bright points. I thought that I liked the gadget robot, and I liked the captain. Um, I thought she was really cool, but other than that, I was really disappointed in this episode. Adelaide Brooke. Um, I thought her journey was interesting, and the doctor's continuing grappling with his fate and his journey was interesting. But other than that, I was like, I don't know, kind of bored
They,
by this.
they made the Doctor into a little whiny bitch in this one.
Yep.
There's a lot that I like about this episode, but the whole I'm the last of the Time Lords. I'm making the rules now. I'm gonna break the fixed point in time.
It's the ego. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially at the end of the episode that caused her to have to kill herself. I mean,
right.
that made me so angry. I mean, we're used to the Doctor being arrogant sometimes, and because I mean, when you have that much knowledge and ability, and you've seen so much, of course, you forgive him some for occasionally being that way. But this was way beyond what I'm willing to forgive. You know what I'm saying? It was just, yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, I kind of I did kind of like the story, but it just the payoff.
there is none. And they were
Yeah.
supposed to die heroes, and they died miserable, like suicides, all of them. And I don't see how that's. It, I just didn't like it. I mean, like you said, there's no real payoff. Like, I guess it goes to explain the point that there is fixed point in times. You can change a couple of things in fixed points, but the end result always stays the same. So she was always going to die. So the only thing the Doctor did was, instead of having her die a hero on Mars, she died as a crazy person in a suicide on Earth. Like, I mean, it still ends on a bright note, I guess, because her granddaughter still goes on to explore whatever star system that she discovers, and the human race expands. So that's good. But you took a person who died as a hero, as a human martyr on Mars, and you turn her into this lunatic who kills herself in her house, which nobody can explain how she got there to begin with. So it just left the real bad taste in my mouth. But there were some things that I did like. I think I did like the way the makeup they used on the people who got turned on Mars, I guess. Um, I
See,
still don't get where
the
they
ma-
get all the water from. Like,
I hated the makeup. That I thought it
oh, you
was
did?
like, especially on the woman, the only woman who turned. It
No,
like
there's two women.
the first one.
Okay.
Um, I it was distracting. I thought it wasn't well done. Like it looked fake. You know what I mean? It just like, and I don't know. It was like a bad version of the thing or something. Like half done.
I
Yeah.
liked it. I liked the crackly stuff. It looked like Ben Grimm, sort of.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's just not. But it wasn't well done.
Yeah, I'll concede that.
Eh.
I don't
Yeah.
know why. I
The
don't know
men
why I kind
looked
of liked
better.
it.
The men looked better, I think. And it's creepy, like using water, something that we rely on to live, like as the enemy. In this case, but in a way that's sinister and not just like Mother Nature, hurricane, water. You know what I'm saying? Like it just that part was pretty cool, and but there was like a lot of tension and build up, and then nothing in the end. It was all ego, and then her having to kill herself. It just made me mad.
Exactly. And that, yeah, I didn't really like the makeup. I didn't. It's like on one hand they were kind of creepy, but on the other it was just like at the end of the day these creatures were just drooling everywhere, and then they started like projectile vomiting water. So I don't know. It's a god awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair. Is there life on Mars? No.
Mm.
Oh,
No.
come on, you didn't.
Boy, yes, I know the song. I'm not even.
No, there were other Bowie references in the show in that episode too. I mean, the whole station was called Bowie, wasn't it?
No, I don't know.
I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure it
know.
was, which I thought was interesting. I'm like, hey, we named the first space station on Mars after David Bowie.
Well, if you're gonna name it after someone, a rock star, it has to be him.
Well, of course, because it's Mars, and so it's David Bowie.
Yeah, it has to be.
So that makes sense. Anyway,
I didn't catch that at all.
yeah,
Yeah, me neither, Marco. So don't feel bad.
I was bored, so I was like, oh, David Bowie. They made a David Bowie reference, and I kind of perked up, and then I was just like, oh, never mind. Yeah, so there we go. I'm not. Yeah, so like I said, I was ready to kind of stop then, but I'm like, no, we gotta finish this. I kind of wanted to watch Torchwood first, but I just had to go in and do the End of Time. So that was, I don't know whether that was, how much really did I miss by skipping over Torchwood in between those two?
They only make one reference to Torchwood in the End of Time, so it's not important in the context of Doctor Who, but that series is hands down the best series of Torchwood. It's my favorite, and it's the shortest. And there's so much that's consequential that goes down. When you watch it, I think you'll really like it. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
by the way, okay, so it's no secret you already know that Peter Capaldi has a role in the next Torchwood season, right?
yes, I
Okay,
did.
so before we move on, we might as well talk about this. This past week, both Moffat and Capaldi said that the connection between the Capaldi's Doctor and Pompeii and the Torchwood world will be somehow explained this season. They're
Yeah,
gonna revisit it. So that is so cool. Because like I told you before they hired Matt Smith, Capaldi was supposed to take over after Tennant, and Russell T Davies had a definite plan on what to do to connect the Torchwood world, the Doctor Who world, and Peter Capaldi, but it didn't work out. So when Capaldi finally got the job, Moffat said that he called up Davies and he said, "Hey, that idea you had, does it still work?" And he said yes. So supposedly it's going to be worked out this coming season.
that's cool. Yeah, you shared that with me earlier this week, and it was really funny the way that Capaldi specifically, he like caught himself mid-sentence. He's like, "Oh,
Right.
I probably shouldn't say that." And he's like, "We may talk about that." like, oh, you sly devil.
Yeah,
So,
he outed himself.
no, that's really cool. I'm excited for that. And now having seen those things, I'll look forward to that in this season. Um, but man, these two episodes were just packed full of stuff. I mean, they did the whole like this is your life thing again
Right.
um, for the last like 10 minutes, which having just done that last week, I was like, oh, we're doing this again. But up until that point, I really liked the all of the different ways that they tied people in. I especially liked the special guest appearances by Timothy Dalton and David Harewood. I I mean Timothy Dalton obviously is great. Uh, I think he is the most underrated. Well, no, he's not the most underrated Bond because everybody hates George Lazenby. He's the second.
And I don't understand why. Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, but I loved him as Bond. I love most of the stuff that he's done. He was a great villain in The Rocketeer, and he's able to like, especially in this role, he really embodied that like you don't know whether he was a good guy or a bad guy, and he's able to walk that line. He did the same thing in Chuck when he was on that show, and that was great. It's like you thought he was a good guy for a while, and then he turned, and that was, that's what Timothy Dalton does, and I I just absolutely love that.
Well, if you enjoyed Timothy Dalton as a villain,
I know
Melissa knows
where
where
this is
Melissa
going.
knows where I'm going with this. He is a fantastic anti-hero and Penny Dreadful. Uh, Anti-hero slash villain, but he is so good, and he was fantastic here in this two-part finale. I mean, who else would you want as the evil president that wants to end all time other than this guy? That voice, his demeanor, the look in his eyes, perfect casting, man. They hit a home run with that. And what I loved about this the most is that we get a little filler as to what happened in Gallifrey that made the Doctor decide I have to end all my people. And we finally get the answer. I mean, they
Yeah.
just went bat crap crazy. And what's really cool is that the classic Who, we actually visited Gallifrey. Well, they didn't really visit. They didn't show the planet, but there were instances where the Doctor would go on trial in Gallifrey. And did you remember those little weird things that they were wearing?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's stuff from the late 70s, early 80s, and they just updated it for this two-part episode. So, back in the 70s, 80s, there was a lot of mention of Gallifrey, and you got to see a lot of Gallifreyans. And up to this point, with the New Who, we hadn't touched Gallifrey. So that little look into Gallifrey as it's broken down in the middle of a war was fantastic. Visiting that and seeing the old wardrobe of the Time Lords, to me as a fan, was freaking awesome. And the way they worked everything in all together was fantastic. That crazy priestess who was prophesizing everything that was going to happen, it just worked.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh yeah, it just worked. Everything worked. I had an issue with the Master being a little ham-fisted with his character, I guess. He went a little too far with the crazy, but everything else was really fantastic. I'm really happy with the way it ended. The long goodbyes were a little long, but overall, it hit the right emotional buttons, I think.
Melissa?
I agree. Um, I It's funny because like there was over a year between I think it was over a year. Marco probably knows for sure, but between the last time we had sort of the Doctor and all his companions together in this episode where we saw a lot of
Right.
them. But even with that big gap, I felt a lot like Andy, like, again, really, we're doing this like twice. I mean, and I knew, because we knew at this point that this was like, David Tennant's last hurrah and everything, but it felt weird to be doing it again. It's like goodbyes are hard enough, and then you make us go through it again. It was just strange, but I didn't mind it. It was just like weird. Love, yeah. I absolutely love Timothy Dalton in this. Um, and as for the Master being a little ham-fisted, I guess you could make that argument, but my argument is, if you'd been hearing that drum beat in your head for that long, you'd be kind of nuts and over the top too, probably. So I can forgive that. I love that Donna's about to win the lottery. If there has to be like some because I hated the way, because I said it last week. I'm not gonna lie, I cried when she had to have her memories gone and everything, and it's like the Doctor didn't want to leave. He kept in the house. She was like on the phone back to old loud Donna, and he just didn't want to leave her, and I didn't want him to leave her. I didn't, it was just so sad. So, and also when her grandpa was like, every once in a while she looks like she's trying to figure something out and she doesn't know what it is, like she looks wistful almost or whatever he said, and I was like, don't make me cry again, so at least the lottery was, it was something. We know she's going to have at least something of a happy ending,
Right.
because we'll probably never see her again,
Right. Donna was the one with the worst fate of all the companions.
Yeah.
But she is the one that was taking care of the best. Not only the lottery, but the doctor gave her a defense mechanism that'll save her for the rest of her life. And saved her in this episode when the Master's clones, or I guess they were
Yeah, when she
clones,
started warming her, heating up, and
right? And then she
why?
did that explosion thingy. So in a way, I mean, he took care of her. I mean, without her knowing it, and without her knowing what's happening around her. But at least she's well taken care of. Taken care of. Um, and I gotta mention Grandpa Wilf because I love him as a character.
Yes.
Oh yes.
He's the you know what on the parting of ways, that pain in his eyes. He's such a genuine character, don't you think? And that speaks volumes to the actor's work. But I felt like I've always felt whenever I see him on screen, like a kinship with him. He's just so like likable, not only likable but genuine. And I don't think we've seen a character like that in the Doctor Who universe in a very, very long time. So Grandpa Wolf to me is one of my favorites in terms of these last two episodes. But before we move on, what do you guys think about the Time Lord lady that kept her eyes closed?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because that was a major question for me. Because Timothy Dalton even says like, "You will be as the guardian angels of old," or something like that, and it's like, whoa, are is this the genesis of the Weeping Angels? Is that where they're coming from, or?
Yeah, I thought that at one point, but both Davies and Moffat refused to answer the question when they asked both of them, "Is this the Doctor's mother?" Because there's one male, one female covering their eyes,
Mm.
and the president refers to the Doctor as the Great Shame of Gallifrey. Um, so the fan theory is that that's his mother. So when the Doctor sees her, she lowers her hands, and he recognizes her, and she's crying. He knows that he's got to put an end to them, knowing that it's his parents. That's just a theory, but neither Moffat or Davies ever answers that question directly. So I'd like to think that maybe his mom was looking after him. I don't know.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. I thought that was just like a Weeping Angels thing because they're covering their eyes and they were crying. But
Yeah. Well, the thing is, at the beginning of the second episode of the finale, they're in Gallifrey in the council, and they know that the Doctor's going to take drastic action, so
Mhm.
so they know what he's up to. And I think they probably, well, the president anyway, because he's insane, blames his parents for bringing him to life. So I think that fan rumor or whatever has some validity to it. I hope that we can revisit that at some point. But I really like it. I think it works.
I think that's really interesting. And I also wanted to bring up one other random piece. When he regenerates into Matt Smith and he's grabbing his hair. Okay, first of all, I noticed that, oh, still not a ginger. But he did say, "I'm a girl. I'm a girl."
Right. Right.
No, I'm not a girl.
Right.
So,
Long hair.
yeah, obviously it's within his mind the realm of possibility that he could be a girl.
I think he's freaking out that it even happened because of the whole hair, but then he realizes he's not. But I'm glad you brought that up because it's spoiler territory for you, although it's already been spoiled. Have we, Melissa, talked about Missy with him?
Yeah, I know who Missy is. I know
Okay.
that the
All right.
Master comes back as a female.
So you know how the Master was brought back to form, right? With a ring?
Yeah.
Who was present there? Nothing but females. So he used female essence and genetic code to bring himself back. So this, and I didn't want to speak about this until you saw this, but now that you've seen this, this could be the basis as to why he was able to come back as female. Because he used the life essence and genetic code of all the females around him to bring himself back.
The same way, like when the Daleks regenerated, then it was based on the touch of
The
a
rose.
Yeah,
Right.
Rose or yeah, okay. That's an interesting idea. I think that's possible.
Yeah.
Um, but I still think that it goes to this idea that Time Lords might have the ability to switch gender at regeneration if it's within his idea that, oh, I'm a girl, I'm a girl. No, wait, I'm not. I'm just throwing that out there. I think that might be
I see it as like him freaking out, like, is this even possible? And then he realizes, no, it's not.
okay.
And then he moves on to thanking the fates that he's not a ginger. That's the way I see it. But
That's the way you want to see it, because
no, I mean that's the way I see it. But if Moffat changes that on the next regeneration, then that argument's moot and invalid.
I thought he still wanted to be a ginger. I thought that was the whole point, is that,
No, he didn't want to be. Doesn't he say he's still not a ginger?
yeah, I
Huh.
figured that was like he always wanted to be one.
You know. I think the whole world should be concentrating on why we haven't had a ginger doctor yet. That's gingerist. They're anti-ginger.
I'm trying to think who the appropriate ginger would be to.
Oh man, Brendan Gleeson.
Oh,
That would be awesome.
that would be a good idea. So, yeah, totally bring him on. I love that guy. Why I didn't immediately, I was somehow stuck on Ed Sheeran, and I'm like, no, we can't have a singer. as
No man. Or the Wilding guy from Game of Thrones with the big old red beard, the one that looks like Ryan Rittenhouse.
Oh yeah. Hi Ryan, if you're listening. He does have a yeah. I think it's more Ryan has a big red beard like that guy, not that
Oh,
guy with
that's the
beard.
other way around.
Yeah, but anyway. Yeah. So that's a good idea. Anyway, and I also I mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to give a shout out to David Harewood and his appearance in here as the is he the is he the prime minister? What is he? Joshua Naismith. I never got exactly what his title was or anything except that he was building this machine.
Prime Minister, right? I'm pretty sure he was Prime Minister.
Was he
I
prime
think
minister?
so.
Yeah. Anyway, I love that guy. I think he's great. I loved him in Robin Hood, which is I just love that show.
Oh, yeah. Friar Tuck, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a mini Doctor Who crossover because he was the boss in Selfie with what's her name, Karen Gillan.
Oh, the Amy Pond. Oh, I think I only saw one episode, but I know you were all in love with the show.
He's
I love something.
really funny in that show because he's just like the worst boss.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny because he always plays, or he keeps playing all of these American characters too. And he was on Homeland, also, as like deputy CIA director or something. It's like you should have a British accent. What's going on? And the same thing in Selfie, but that's okay. Like half that cast was British. That's probably why it didn't work out for American audiences.
Because we're still pissed off about taxation without representation.
It was too classy for us. We didn't quite get it. So yeah. Anyway, anything else on this? I guess I feel like maybe we should have like our own little in memoriam for David Tennant and what we liked and what we didn't like about his time as the Doctor.
You know what I haven't brought up yet, ever, and it's been on my mind forever? Whenever David Tennant's Doctor Who is in the TARDIS, it's always like blowing up and crap. It's always, he never has complete control of it, and that doesn't happen in Matt Smith as Doctor. And I think after a while, that kind of stuff started to annoy me. David Tennant overall just started to annoy me after a while. But that whole thing about how when he was in the TARDIS and they were flying wherever it is they were going to, stuff was falling down in the TARDIS and exploding almost every episode. And I don't know why that annoys me so much. That and yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing. I know it's nitpicking, but I pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't want to think of the Doctor as incompetent. I
Right, exactly.
I want to think that, like, okay, maybe there is some element of magic and surprise to how the TARDIS works, and it's not an exact science all the time, but he doesn't, like, break the thing wherever he goes. But here's the thing, is I tend to think that, like, the problems that were happening with David Tennant were more Russell T Davies problems than they were David Tennant problems.
Right, I think so.
So, I overall really liked his characterization. I thought he was good. I don't know. I like him as an actor. I've liked him in other things. I'm excited to see him in future projects coming up. Geez, especially Jessica Jones, like that.
Yeah.
Can't come along soon enough, and it's so funny because he broke the mold of, like, I don't want to be typecast as this, like, heroic goody two shoes kind of guy,
Yeah.
and now, like, he only plays creepy villains.
Yeah, he's gonna be kind of rapey in Jessica Jones.
Kind of rapey.
Yeah, not kind of.
That's gonna break a lot of little Whovians' hearts.
Ah, poor Rebecca.
Yeah. And every one of her ilk. So that's gonna be it'll break my wife's heart. I don't want to tell her. Maybe I will tell her, like, just not to watch Jessica Jones. So, because she really likes David Tennant from what's that cop show, Broadchurch?
Broadchurch? Right.
Yeah, she really likes him in that. So yeah.
It has Gwen from
Yes, it does.
in the second season. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like in every episode.
British TV, it's so incestuous. Everyone's in everyone's shows.
So okay, you said in memoriam things we liked and didn't like. I didn't hear anything Marco liked. Y'all used to complain
you weren't
about
supposed
him.
to notice this. I
say one nice thing about David Tennant, and then we.
Hold on.
I mean, did I miss a compliment or anything in there? I don't think I did.
He has nice hair.
One of the things I really liked about David Tennant is I loved his look. I loved the duster coat, the suit, and the Converse.
I hated the duster coat.
Really?
Hated. I always hated it. It makes
I like Chuck Taylor's. I like. That's about it.
What did you like?
The Chuck Taylor's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Chucks, yeah. Yeah, that's about of his look the only thing I liked.
I just thought that was really cool that it was like we're gonna do like a nice suit, not like a super like swanky suit, but like a nice suit still, and Chucks. I thought that was a fun way to put it together. So I liked that look way more than I liked Eccleston's leather pony boy whatever.
No way, I preferred Eccleston's look.
No, I love Eccleston. I liked him more than Tennant, but yeah, his look was just eh.
I liked it, man. It was like Fonzie in space.
Hey.
I kept expecting him to hit a jukebox somewhere and have it play music.
Exactly. And I mean, I didn't hate Eccleston's look, but I liked Tennant's look better. So, but they're still both miles ahead of Tom Baker's silly scarf antics. So
you shut your face right now. you just shut it.
You just pissed off all 12 Whovians who are listening right now.
I know. That was intentional.
All the classic Whovians who gave this episode a shot, they're like, screw this guy.
Yeah, I'm never going to listen again, dude.
I know. I spoke ill of the sacred Tom Baker.
Yeah, he's like the one, out of the classic Who. He's like the one that everyone loves.
Yeah, he was
Totally.
awesome.
So yeah, I should say I should actually go back and watch Classic Who before I start making fun of Tom Baker. So
Yeah,
I'll
no,
do that.
I think if you didn't start with Classic Who, that you'll be too distracted about how poorly made it was. It was. So I don't know if I should, recommend you see any of the classic. Yeah, go ahead and see them, but you'll see there's a gigantic difference.
I kind of feel the same way about classic Star Trek, though. I mean, like, seriously, like the episode with like the giant hand that comes down and like grabs the Enterprise, or like Space Lincoln, or any
I think it was
number of
awesome.
ridiculous things. It's just like, man, why did people think this was good? And yet there's something to it, and there's something funny about their wacky antics. So
Yeah, that's true. But there's a bigger difference between classic Star Trek and Next Generation as there is to classic Who and New Who. There's just it's way too different. Even the format of the show was extremely different. They would almost always end it with a cliffhanger, so the previous episode would end the first few minutes of the new episode. It was just completely different. Not to mention that production value was very, very low, extremely low.
anyway, Melissa, your final thoughts on David Tennant?
Um, he's definitely not my favorite, but there's a lot of reasons for that. One is that I felt like season 3 just really made me dislike him so much, the way he treated Martha, and this isn't David Tennant's fault, by the way. I thought, I mean, there's nothing wrong with his performance. He did well. It's just that he had really crappy material to work with,
True.
but that stains his legacy in my mind, whether it's his fault or not. Um, and like in season 4, though, I thought it was like resurgent. Not only were the stories good, but he reclaimed some of that humanity, because even though he's not human, he has a lot of humanity. That's why he hangs with humans and spends so much time on Earth. And just in like one episode where like I remember specifically thinking during the Agatha Christie episode when Donna dressed up, she's like, how do I look? And he's like, you look smashing. In one sentence, he was nicer to her than he was to Martha, like, all season. You know what I mean? So for me, I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about him. But again, it's not necessarily his fault. Just like the person who portrayed Martha, it's not her fault that she had such a crap character, but that doesn't make me like the character anymore.
That's true.
So I just have really mixed feelings about him. And also because, and Marco and I have alluded to this before, we feel like the kind of more tweeny, teeny bopper type supposed Whovians, that he brought a lot of them on board because he's so dreamy, and because it was during Tennant's era that Doctor Who kind of exploded in popularity, and so he brought that whole new families, which is good because that means it keeps getting renewed. Maybe they get a little more money to do things or whatever. But at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword because I felt like those specials in between, it wasn't just to assuage the frustration of the fans because things were in flux for so long between the two, between Davies and Moffat, but also like because he was so popular, they had to give him like a goodbye tour. But it was terrible. Like most of these specials were not very good. And so it just felt long and dragged out. And so by the end, it was like, yeah, go, bye.
Let's go
Um,
away.
and
See
yeah,
ya.
and it's too bad because really he was a good doctor overall. Although there were times when I felt like he was trying too hard to be cute. Like he was kind of like he was almost posing for a second, waiting for a reaction. from people, but trying to look good. You know what I mean? Like a rehearsed pose almost for like split seconds here and there. And it just made me want to kind of roll my eyes. I was like, whatever. But I mean, overall, he did well. I mean, the doctor, he was interesting, but he was more of an egomaniac than Eccleston was for sure, especially in that special that we were talking about where he changed history. But yeah, I have mixed feelings. But his performance was great, but I feel like he deserved a little better in the end.
Yeah, I see David Tennant's tenure here as the best of times and the worst of times. And I think that the best iteration of that is that back to back you had Human Nature, The Family of Blood, and Blink. And that third season was just it was awful, and then there were also moments of brilliance. And there's no way to separate the good from the bad, so you kind of have to take both of them with one another, which is really unfortunate. So overall, I'm pretty positive on Tennant, but man, there's a lot of terrible stuff in there. So that's, but so far I'm having a good time, and we will see what happens in 2 weeks when I start getting into Matt Smith. Because this next week, I'm going to tackle Torchwood and finish that supposedly best season. We'll see if it lives up to your hype, Marco. We're gonna.
I hope so. I'm kind of excited to have you see it, to have you watch it. I think you'll like it. I think you will. Hopefully.
I'm gonna see if I can watch it in the same way that someone else would have watched it, where they watched a new episode every day. Um, so we'll see. My schedule this week is really weird. I'm traveling with work and for family stuff, so maybe if I can fit in an episode of Torchwood every night before I go to bed, then that will be the way to do it. But until then, this has been great. Thanks to you both for being here. Thanks to everyone at Big Shiny Robot for hosting our podcast. And thanks to all of you who are listening. We really appreciate your support, your tweets. You can follow us on Twitter at WhoVirgin, or on Facebook at facebook.com/WhoVirgin. Um, we'll, I'll, I don't know if I'm going to live tweet any of this. We'll see, but maybe I'm up for some periscoping starting next week as we get into the Matt Smith era a little bit more. We'll see what goes on with that. But until then, we will see you all next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.
And that's over.